Season 5. Straight PvP. Despite the return of this fraudulent son of a bitch, I don't have an agenda to push today, so we're just going to recap. Day 1, Class 1A takes on the Sanin, and to be honest, this was just a quirk showcase. Very visually pleasing, but irrelevant to the plot. But in case you're curious, Surge gets jumped and eventually tag teamed by Sero and Yayorozu. Tamaki teaches Deku that it's a cold world before gut checking him with a kick. Bakugo then palms him into the asphalt, him being Tamaki. Cool, respectable, here's your participation trophy. Now let's get into the grits. Class 1A and 1B, according to this comment, in theory should be even. Absolutely not. The teams are uneven, so Shinzo gets 2 evaluation matches. The first match kicks off with Bear 1B slapping Kirishima and Sue across the arena. Animal Planet gets trapped, and it's looking bad for 1A, to keep it a bean with you. Before too much damage can be done, Shinzo puts Bear 1B in genjutsu. Shinzo is then trapped before he can capitalize on the opportunity. This will happen more than once. Kaminari sacrifices himself. Kaminari sacrifices himself to stun lock Bear 1B, and Sue grabs Glass Boy with her tongue. How would you feel if I said I was jealous? Huh? Kirishima breaks Animal Planet free. He and Animal Planet proceed to do fuck all with this opportunity and promptly gets tossed into the world's strongest and greenest spider web, which eliminates them. Well, actually, just Kirishima, because Bear 1B decides to run Animal Planet to the capture cage himself, which is kind of funny because it just shows how sorry Animal Planet is. Kaminari becomes a sacrificial lamb again when he tries to trade with Bear 1B, but fails. Vineyard gets put in genjutsu. Asui captures Vineyard and kicks the dog shit out of Thorns. Shinzo drops a vent on Bear 1B. It doesn't work, but at least he got to use the ropes. Before Shinzo gets mauled, Bear 1B gets smacked with 160 pounds of high school hero meat. No pause, take that how you will. To elaborate, in case you're not paying attention to the screen, Asui throws Thorns into Bear 1B before he can maul Shinzo. With Thorns and Bear 1B down, Class 1A gets a dominant win with 4 captures and 1 loss. Round 2 out of 5 is what I like to call the Yayorozu slander match. Black kidnaps Aoyama because his light quirk is dangerous, despite the fact he was flashbanged by Invisigirl. I guess he was just sticking to the plan. Tsukuyomi, is it Tsukuyomi or Tokuyomi? Bird Boy saves Aoyama, which basically resets the battle. Phase 2 kicks off with the real fight of the day, Kendo vs Yaoyorozu. Yaoyorozu blocks a vicious punch by Kendo with a shield, but she's thrown across the map nonetheless. Ignore the fact that Yaoyorozu is shocked that Kendo crumbled a tungsten shield like construction paper, because Yaoyorozu is smart enough to know that cars do the same thing to absorb fatal energy. Kendo rushes Yaoyorozu and she decides to turtle instead of fighting. Also, how the fuck is she holding 3 shields? Kendo proceeds to punch the shit out of these shields, mimicking what she saw in the sports festival, and Yayorozu uses all this time she bought to make a cannon.
Is this nigga serious?
It sounds silly because it is, but this actually plays out okay. Yayorozu is knocked out off camera, which is sad, and I'll rant about it after we watch Invisigirl beat the dog shit out of Manga Man. She proceeds to whoop his ass for a good 8 to 15 seconds. Unfortunately, boxing is a very inefficient way to win a fight, so Invisigirl gets captured by Kendo, which wins the match because Aoyama is captured, Yayorozu is unconscious, Invisigirl is captured, and Tokuyomi is incapacitated. Tokuyomi is incapacitated. Class B wins the Yayorozu slander match with a 4-0 sweep. How is this the Yayorozu slander match? Well, much like people who take selfies with pistols, apparently the staffs and melee weapons Yayorozu be posing up with is all for show. Also, she showed there's a difference between being educated and being smart when she spawns shields instead of a personal defense weapon. At no point does she come to the conclusion that she means more to her team alive than knocked the fuck out. Not to mention the cannon. You could argue it was the fastest way to transfer a cure to the team. To elaborate, in case you haven't seen the episode, there's a mushroom girl on the other team and she could spawn them anywhere, making whoever they spawn on sick, which is how Tokuyomi gets incapacitated. So you could argue it was the fastest way to transfer a cure to the team, but not only did it take an extreme amount of time, but it got you knocked the fuck out. And with the power of hindsight, we know that the goodie bag with the cure didn't work. So to make a long rant a little less long, Yayorozu doesn't show any secondary skills besides creation. So when she literally gets knocked out without putting up any semblance of a fight to gamble on her quirk, all for it to fail, is very disappointing. But as frustrating as that is, not everyone reaches their full potential, and at least it made you feel something, or it made me feel something, which makes the show good. Match 3, insert cool name here, I couldn't think of one. Todoroki gets singled out by Tetsu ×4, and Tetsu punches him to the floor. Todoroki recovers off camera, and next time we see him, he gets jabbed to the face, left hook, gut check, uppercut so hard Todoroki catches air, then grab attack. Todoroki is getting pieced up so bad his teammates are making faces like this. Todoroki then goes plus ultra, and this buys him just enough time to get kneed in the gut twice. Todoroki attempts to burn Tetsu into submission, and it would have worked if Mudkip didn't show up. Despite losing and being knocked out by environmental damage, Todoroki is saved by Ingenium, which is unfortunate given that Tetsu ×4 won't be plot relevant after this episode. It sucks that he's robbed over a victory over Todoroki. Like, he literally just defeated a prodigy and he gets nothing out of it, and Todoroki doesn't get anything out of it because he's saved. To elaborate, it's unfortunate that none of the teachers or Todoroki himself realize that Todoroki has been exploited in hand-to-hand combat in literally every real fight he's had, but that doesn't matter. What matters is My Hero Academia is trying to teach you that bossing is a very inefficient way to win a fight. It's literally happened in back-to-back episodes. Speaking of fights, Tails and Spiral start boxing, and it's kinda nice. Block, jab gets countered, Tails jumps over the belt check, Spiral gets low and combines a head spin and a kick to knock Tails off balance. Jab, roundhouse misses, another jab block. Tails uses the momentum gained from rolling to come at Spiral with flying double knees. This fight leads to absolutely nothing. I just wanted to point out that My Hero Academia can animate fights pretty well. They just choose not to. Probably for budget reasons, but for narrative reasons, I'm gonna tell you it's because a lot of the motherfuckers in this show can't fight. Ingenium captures Spirals and locks him up before saving Todoroki. Despite my opinions of Ingenium, he's actually really good in the training arcs. But as good as Ingenium is, he can't outrun a falling building, so the match ends in a tie. I'm not gonna rant about Todoroki. I'm not gonna call him a fraud. I'm not gonna rant about the fact that Todoroki comes to the conclusion. Match 4, which I dubbed the Who's the Real Prodigy match. I got one word to describe this match: Bakugo. This is Bakugo at his best. Scissorhands does a combo attack with Glue Face to drop pipes on Team Bakugo. I just realized how funny that sentence sounded because I didn't put the S on pipes. But before it lands, the attack gets obliterated. Scissorhands uses the shock of this attack to try to nab Jiro, but by the time he gets into spitting distance, Bakugo absolutely decimates him with a grenade attack. Since fire is non-lethal this arc, Scissorhands is only stun locked, but before he can recover, Bakugo smacks him across the map. Team 4B lures Bakugo into a chase. Bob the Builder traps him. Sugar Rush saves. I tried to say that 4 times, by the way. Sugar Rush saves Bakugo by breaking his restraint, and Bakugo responds by feinting a head-on assault and creating a smoke screen for Jiro and Zero to get the element of surprise on Bob the Builder. Bob the Builder gets jumped, by the way. After jumping Bob the Builder, he catches up to the Goon Hero and starts fire punching the shit out of him. He is literally going in a circle, beating the dog shit out of the Goon Hero. Bro is so discombobulated that Sugar Rush literally just runs up to him and throws him in an armbar. Scissorhands tries to fight Bakugo in the air. That don't work. We've been over this. That shit don't work. Spin Cycle 9000 thrown into a building, he's incapacitated. Zero finds Lizard's real body by just doing some crazy deductive reasoning and hits her with a grenade. Out of self-preservation, she tries to run, but Bakugo hits her with a final flash so violent that it instantly knocks her out. That's all 4 opponents captured or incapacitated in 5 minutes. Bakugo literally just had a 3 kill, 1 assist, flawless ace. I know it was only 4 people, but ace sounds cooler than quad. Enjoy it while you can though, because this is the peak of Bakugo. Not trying to say that he falls off, but after this, it's the Plot Armor Olympics. Not gonna lie, I expected to elaborate on the fact that it's gonna be the Plot Armor Olympics after this, but I didn't. So moving on, Deku versus Class B5. This actually isn't that eventful from a recap standpoint. Given Class B is basing their strategy off the sports festival, they logically rage bait Deku the entire first leg of the battle. This eventually leads to Deku getting so pissed off he accidentally manifests Black Whip. You'd think I'd classify the Black Whip reveal as eventful, but it's just lawless energy at this point. Deku gets put in genjutsu, and the combination of a woman's touch and getting cussed out puts him back into the fight. Besides that, the match begins and ends with Deku versus Shinzo, and to be honest, I don't know how the fuck they made this interesting for a second time, because Shigaraki, god damn it, because Shinzo can't dance with Deku. Shinzo drops pipes on Deku and he grabs them with Black Whip. If you're looking at the screen, you can tell this was extremely unnecessary but cool, kind of like that meme of the Resident Evil dude doing a backflip off of the door. Anyways, Shinzo takes advantage of the time the pipe trick bought him to run away. There's a joke to be made here, but I can't think of it. Monoma gets a freebie off on Deku, which, I mean, it's alright. Honestly, doesn't mean anything and doesn't lead to anything, because Deku literally just catches up to Shinzo, and as soon as he gets to him, he just captures him. This ends the match, but before we get into the Shigaraki quirk awakening, I didn't mention that Uraraka pops the fuck off. After saving Deku, she puts Monoma in a submission. I'll spare you the jokes. She then one-shots Emily before bull rushing Baseball Girl into a trap. Having a 3-0 run and getting brownie points for air quotes saving Deku? Hey, kind of peak. This is presumably the final training arc of My Hero Academia. I also didn't mention that this is kind of the peak of Uraraka, because after this shit just gets off the rails. All right, 2 days later, let's finish this. I say presumably because I haven't seen season 8 yet. Opinions? The My Hero Academia PvP arcs are actually incredible. It's home to a majority of the real battles in the show. In each of the training arcs, there's like clear winners and losers, which add to the stakes. Obviously, when you make a YouTube video, you have to nitpick, but in totality, the only flaw with the training arcs is the body of work that follows them, not the arc itself. I'll elaborate on that in another vid, but for now, get your Twitter fingers ready, because it's time for another Shigaraki hate-a-so. Skipping over the hellish Todoroki family for narrative reasons, we get Shigaraki versus Giga Nigga. And I use the word get loosely because 99% of this presumed fight happens off camera, and in the 1% we do see, at least in the anime, it's made very clear that the group can't handle Giga Nigga, much less Shigaraki himself. That was worded kind of weird. They can't handle Giga Nigga as a group, so Shigaraki can't handle him by himself. Alright, moving on. The Love, short for League of Villains, is teleported to a doctor, and despite calling Shigaraki out for being, quote, childish, he decides he would give Shigaraki creative mode nonetheless if he tames Giga Nigga. It's revealed that they've been fighting him for roughly 3 months. It might have been longer. I'm not gonna lie, man. I was kind of zoned out. And if it's as one-sided as what you're seeing on screen, I wouldn't consider that a fight. I'd call that surviving. Shigaraki then gets called out by Redestro, and you could say this is extremely convenient, but the Liberation Army is a good skill check for any unused characters, and the only unused character so far is the Love. Anyways, Toga and Twice are 2 out of the 3 people that get quirk awakenings this arc, and it's funny, someone mentioned Shigaraki's love for his team and whatnot, and that comment was stuck in my head while I was watching Toga get absolutely jumped. Not saying you're wrong, but Shigaraki was nowhere to be found while his homies was getting hopped. That, jokes aside, Toga can now clone the abilities of people she loves. Twice gets over his PTSD and unlocks infinite doubles, making him the biggest threat in the League of Villains, at least for a few episodes. Shigaraki's initial quirk awakening allows him to not only chain decay, but now he doesn't need all 5 fingers to melt you. Shigaraki reaches the tower and gets packed up by Redestro. This ends up being a clone, but that counts. We can argue about it later, but phase 1 of the fight goes to Destro. Shigaraki destroys the tower and lectures Destro about not being in the field with his niggas, and honestly, I agree. But if Bonnie Blue can handle 100 men in a day, you'd assume 110,000 soldiers can handle 5, and that's excluding my opinions about the Love. But man, Shigaraki dodges a super slam, but the AoE sends him ragdolling through the air. He's then captured out of the air and gets at least one of his hands broken. In theory, the fight is virtually over. Shigaraki gets basically submitted, and there's almost no escape, and I put emphasis on almost for a reason. Personally, I'm thinking, why doesn't Redestro just smush him to death, right? But in his eyes, or from his perspective, him being Redestro, he thinks he chopped the head off of the proverbial snake by breaking Shigaraki's hands. The fight resets after Shigaraki uses decay and gets thrown across the arena. And from this point forward, Shigaraki will basically be in creative mode. He spontaneously gets super speed. Redestro says this version of Shigaraki would have cleared the Kimono Squad, and for the record, I cannot emphasize this enough, I strongly disagree. Shigaraki is shown to be unconscious, which is odd because he was fine a second ago, and he hasn't been hit since resetting the fight. Despite getting the Zenitsu Zenkai boost, that is an odd tongue twister, he gets smacked by a Dark Rasengan. This breaks his foot and is the only visual damage I can see without freeze framing, even though it might be freeze framed on your screen. That ball of stress energy might as well have been an alarm clock, because all it did was wake Shigaraki up, because he's clearly conscious now. Redestro is now scared of Shigaraki because throughout this fight he's been hit twice by decay, and to be fair, given how overpowered this quirk becomes starting like 30 minutes ago, I don't blame him. Redestro goes for the finishing blow, but Shigaraki blocks it. Redestro tries again and Shigaraki simply decays his fist before it can do any damage. I'ma keep it a bean. Shigaraki is cooking right now. Redestro attempts to flee, and instead of using his newfound super speed to chase him, Shigaraki just nukes the city. Redestro is incapacitated and Shigaraki takes over the Liberation Army. That's basically the end of season 5. Closing thoughts. Definitely Shigaraki's best arc. He flexes on grunts, beats Redestro into submission. Some things about it don't add up. For example, Redestro says Shigaraki's super speed comes from fighting Giga Nigga for months, and I'm like, where was this super speed before he got his hands broken? Also, he gains the ability to delete attacks, which is extremely overpowered and intimidating, but instead of forcing the heroes to find a way to defeat this new intimidating and extremely overpowered ability that Shigaraki has, he either doesn't do it anymore or is too slow or physically incompetent to try to do it. Last but not least, to end the nitpicking on Shigaraki, yeah, everyone points out the destruction of Deka City, but Deka is apparently 90% villains, and despite literally nuking the city, Shigaraki takes control of this massive army. And if that flew over your head, basically what I'm trying to say is he nuked the fucking city, caused all that damage, but all of a sudden he has a massive army. You thought the army would have died in the fucking city. Did they come from all over Japan? Because apparently they're all over fucking Japan. I don't know. Where the fuck did these people come from?
This is a liberated district. 90% of Deka City's population is hidden liberation warriors.
But if you ignore all of that, Shigaraki is cooking, and if he keeps up what he did in phase 3 of the Redestro fight, I might have to reconsider my fraud take. Besides that, season 5, 2 arcs, the final training arc, top 5, and it's not 5, great arc. The Shigaraki quirk awakening, very good. W arc, honestly, it's the best we're getting out of Shigaraki, with the caveat of season 8, but I ain't gonna lie, that is going to be fucking hilarious. I cannot wait to watch season 8. Quick question, would you have rather seen the 3-month battle between the Love and Giga Nigga or the Hellish Todoroki family? Hey, me personally, I vote for Giga. And it's kind of the same argument I had for the Uraraka Toga fight. It's like, bro, we had a chance to do all the behind the scenes, like this is what the daily life shit, you know, we had a chance to do all that. It's a war arc. I want to see war. But also I see the perspective of some people like having that calm before the storm type shit. It also sets up a really nice twist that's been hinted at for the entire season and things of that nature, which a lot of people liked. I have to rewatch it before I give an opinion on that. But hey, until we meet in that video or in the comments, remember, if you know man, because we know we up next, sponsored by Atari.